Hello, I am David Andersen, the bridge pastor at Sylvania United Church of Christ, and this is our weekly Keeping in Touch video, letting our members and friends know what is taking place with our congregation and in our community. Before we begin, I just have a couple of important announcements. The first being that the church continues its suspension of all church activity and worship at least through May 24th. And that is not a set date, but will be affected by circumstances. And then also, we have a committee, coronavirus committee, working to establish guidelines and procedures for that time when eventually we hope we might be able to return. In that regard, next week at Keeping in Touch, I hope that everybody will be able to tune in, because we will have our moderators, Jean Brockmeyer and Jeff Finch, who will be here to tell us about decisions made by the cabinet. And these are very, very important decisions that are coming up next week, including the guidelines, which I mentioned, and there are one or two other very important items that they will be discussing and voting upon. And so Jean and Jeff next week will share the time together, helping the congregation become informed with the decisions that were made. I believe that's all of the announcements, and we'll get to the reports now. And I'm going to begin with Dave Walker, who is chairman of our personnel committee at Sylvania United Church of Christ. But today he is here in the capacity of one who has been a faithful volunteer and leader at Grace Community Church. And I have asked him, Grace Community, not church. I have asked him to come and explain, especially the work done by Grace Community in their community garden. So Dave.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity. Those of you who do not know, Grace Community Center was started in the basement of Grace Church, which is still on Fulton. Grace Community Center is near the corner of Fulton and West Delaware. And I got an email a couple of weeks ago from Bryce Harbaugh, who is the current chairman of the board, and they are able to do their garden again this year. I think it's the third year. And it is a massive project. I was invited 2 years ago to their harvest festival and could not believe the size of this garden. And any of you that have seen the produce in the church delivered in the summer, they're going to do it again, a goodwill offering for produce. Well, what I was asked to do was to help out, and they took off the top couple inches of dirt. They put on compost. We all had wheelbarrows and shovels and hose. It was all turned over. Beds are ready to be sowed. And there were a lot of people at this first one. It was majority of people from Sylvania United Church of Christ. The Bodie Uring children, all four of them, 14 to age 20. I enjoyed teaching them Sunday school, children's worship. They all were there. None of them were complaining about physical work. Their job was to shovel the compost into the wheelbarrows. Then the rest of us, including the father, Jerry, wheelbarrowed the compost over to all the beds. Karen, my wife, and Sandy Hodder were turning the dirt over and hoeing and getting ready for it to be sowed again. And then this past week, that was 2 weekends ago, this past weekend, Chris Strand and I got to demo a bathroom. You've probably seen these HGTV where you get to demo something. Well, I didn't quite know what I was getting myself into. I told him, if I would have known, I would have brought a sledgehammer. And Chris and I did not. So we had to try and take we took all the toilets out, we took the sinks out, and I'm sure this was original construction from 1985. Everything was rusted, falling apart. But there are now 2 new beautiful bathrooms. When I was on the board and the president, Grace Community Center, one of the projects I wanted to do was to redo the bathrooms. But we had other financial priorities and it couldn't be done. I'm so happy I could help out with those bathrooms. So there's now excellent bathrooms. The other thing, I was so surprised when I came there. I didn't know what to expect. Grace Community Center for all these years have done an after school program, summer school program, a senior center. And of course, none of that can be done. But 2 days after the governor shut down that facility, other places, the stay-home order, they started getting phone calls from people needing food. So every classroom, the library, the computer lab, everything is stacked with food. They have people coming in 125 a week. They deliver anybody, any geographic area. So they're still doing, God's work. They're doing what's needed, what's necessary. They have masks. They got masks sewn from St. Vincent's. We all had masks and gloves. The staff is still there and busy and continue to do things. So we need to continue to support them, of course, with prayers, but also financially, as well as any type of food stocks we want. But Elaine, the executive director, specifically said the seniors need those things that we give that we used to give when we attended the church. They need the cleaning supplies, the soap, the shampoo, but now also, Lysol, hand wipes, those kind of things. So any of you that are interested in doing that, you can drop it off at Grace Community Center or give me a call, and I'd be glad to drop those off. I've got canned goods in my car I'm going to drop off there. And if I can find some cleaning supplies, if any of you know where they are, I was at Costco yesterday and they're out. I was at Lowe's today and they were out. So if anyone knows, we can put that in the newsletter. I think we're all looking for those. David, was there anything else that I missed or any questions you have?
Yeah, I just have a couple questions. One, I saw the Facebook picture of you working on the garden, and it looks like the garden is in those beds that are divided off. How many of those beds are there? It looked like there were quite a few.
There's 35 beds, and these beds are like, you have to see it to believe it. You will be, they really overdid it. It's a lot of work, a lot of manpower. The plants are inside the center. The neighborhood is being invited this weekend to actually put the plants in. Those people that weed and water are eligible to get the produce themselves, and then the excess goes to area churches. I have to say, Park United Church of Christ, there were 8 volunteers on Saturday that were from Park. Got to meet somebody I hadn't seen in 30 years from Park. So that was nice. So it is being supported by other churches besides, but we're the only people with youth, and to see those youth, they were there again. The Bodie Uring children were there again, 14 to 20, and they never complained. It was great to see them. They're turning out very well. Of course, I'm trying to get them involved in our church again.
Thank you very much, Dave. And thank you for the work that you do with Grace Community. when those gardens grow, who tends them? Who takes care of those 35 bins of plantings?
Yeah, so between the staff and the neighborhood volunteers, they're the ones that tend those. They do have some, I see there's some sprinkler systems in there, and they have, cloth down where they put the plants in the cuttings. But from my own experience, it still takes, a garden is not going to do well unless it's tended on a regular basis. So but if any other volunteer opportunities, I'll let the church know.
Thank you very much, Dave.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Okay, now Kristen is starting a new program with our Zoom, and I'd asked her to speak a bit about that and bring us up to date on what's going on with her.
Hi, everybody. So yes, we're going to continue to utilize Zoom and to use it in new and different ways by creating small groups, some of which you might already be a part of. Our Holy Chow or our even our Lenten gathering groups, or some will form new for this purpose. But our idea is to make sure that everyone in the congregation who wants to be a part of a small group is a part of a small group that meets regularly. And this small group might do something as simple as eat a meal together online, play a game together online, read a book together. Or it could be to view our worship materials. It could be what you want it to be, and the staff is willing to provide training in terms of how to use Zoom for this purpose, as well as materials that you can use. We can find Christian education materials, and then other things that are available. So we're going to be being very intentional about our use of Zoom for small groups.
But Kristen, if they're interested and they want to become a part of a Zoom group, which is online, like we're doing right now, if they want to be a part of something like that, how does that happen?
Well, joining a group is pretty simple. I'm taking the individuals in our congregation and working to make sure they're part of a small group and then getting those groups online. But joining Zoom is as simple as clicking a link. If you don't already have the software set up on your laptop or other device, Zoom will install that and then you'll join the meeting. So there really isn't a whole lot that the person joining a group needs to do in order to be a part of it. An organizer for the small group will need to lead the meeting, which means start it, end it, and let people join as they come in. But it's very low key in terms of commitment and then stuff you need to do in the background. But we can walk you through each of those steps.
Savvy at all, that it's very, very easy. You go online, you touch a button, you're admitted into the group, and that's all you need to do. And just know how to maybe mute and unmute, but that is it. So, well, good. But who should they call or contact if they want to be a part of one of these groups?
Yep, go ahead and reach out to me, and I'm going to be intentional about reaching out to everyone in the congregation. So if you don't hear from me, please be in touch with me if this is something that you want to be a part of.
Okay.
One additional thing that I think of that is not related to Zoom at all is that our mental health small group has organized a fundraiser because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So the walk that usually happens at the end of May in support of NAMI, the local organization that does a lot of mental health initiatives and support groups, that fundraising walk is not taking place, but it's happening virtually. So our congregation is accepting donations. The link is available on our Facebook page as well as our website, and I'll work to make sure that's front and center so that people can find that easily.
Okay, your turn.
Hi, everyone. I just have two quick announcements. The first one is that this Thursday night, we will not be having story time. We will in the future, just not this week. The second announcement is just that Temple Hills has canceled camp for the summer, which is too bad, but you will have the opportunity to do some sort of virtual experiences with them. So keep an eye out for that.
I know, I read that about Temple Hills. I feel so sad about that. But then if you'll see over my shoulder, I put a poster up. You can't read it. I'm going to refer to it on Sunday, but it says, Chautauqua. And Sharon and I have been going to Chautauqua every year for like 30 years. And we got notice this week that they are canceling their entire season. And that includes not just the lectures and everything, but the ballet school, the music school, the theater school. Everything is canceled for this year. So tough times. Okay, Mary?
Yes, confirmands are continuing to meet, and we had our first experience playing games online through a house party app. So we had fun doing that, and I think that'll be a way for us to continue to gather. We're trying to put together a video of the Earth Day prayer poem we shared, so that will be available Sunday, I hope, with Kristen's help.
And Joyce.
Hey everybody. Just want to say that I'm still thinking of all of you and I miss you. And I will be going into the office this week for a couple of days. I got some things I need to get done there. So if you need anything or you need to drop off anything, I will be there later today and tomorrow actually. So just wanted to let everyone know. Also, the newsletter is coming out this week, so if you have anything that you want to add to it, shoot me an email, send it to me. I'll make sure it gets in there, but that's all I have.
Okay. Now, Joyce is going into the office, but that doesn't mean that the office is yet open. But if
Right.
anybody should happen by there and go in, you cannot go in unless you have a face mask. That is going to be one of the procedures, that to be in the church building, you have to be wearing a face mask for whenever it opens up. I believe that's about it. I really encourage you to listen next week because there'll be a lot of news given out by Jean and Jeff. I want to thank Dave Walker for being a part of our group today. And I hope that you see by what Dave Walker was talking about, the volunteer work that he's doing, how much of that is still going on in our congregation. Last week, we had Sandy and Al talking about the environment and starting a sacred garden at our church. The week before, we had Todd Masman, who talked about the work that he is doing with the international students at Lourdes University. So even though there is this period of social isolation and everything, people are finding ways they still can contribute and still volunteer in the name of Christ. And we certainly thank you. And we will see you hopefully on Sunday for our worship, but then again next Wednesday for keeping in touch. Thank you. Bye.